Part 4. Given the name, you write the formula, and this uses some math. For this type of problem, you must show your work, either the list and count method or the crisscross method. And when you take the test, you will have to do your work on paper and upload a photo. So keep that in mind when you take the test next week. You will need to show what we're going to do here on some paper and upload a photo. So the steps here are the list and count method is the one we're going to use the most. Write symbols in the charges. So it means you're looking at a name, like here, the example down here, sodium hydroxide. So first you write the symbols and the charges, then list the ions until the charges add up to 0, then count the number of ions in each list, and write the chemical formula to show how many ions are in each list. And for this, on the test, you will get to use these two reference sheets, the ion charges on this table and the basic polyatomic chart. There's 2 examples done for you, but let's just walk through them. And these tips might help you. So calcium nitrate. And the tip here says to highlight the polyatomic ions. The 8 ending tells you it's a polyatomic ion. And that means you're going to use the polyatomic ion chart to get the charge. So nitrate is a polyatomic ion. If it said nitride, remember the anions over here have the "ide" endings in the names. So this is all the "ides" over here in this part of the periodic table. And so when we look up calcium, we know it's Ca. So I'm going to find Ca. Here's Ca. And hint, because it's the first one, it's going to be positive, right? So it's going to be on the left side of the table. So Ca is a +2. So I wrote Ca +2 here. And then the next part is nitrate. Looking at the word nitrate, the ATE says don't look here at the periodic table, right, for 8. But look at the polyatomic ion chart. Here's nitrate. So I'm going to write NO3 with the parentheses and the -1. So when I first start, if I was doing this, you wouldn't see this nitrate, would you? You would just write it once first. And then you ask yourself, do they add up to 0? +2 and -1. Do not add up to 0. They're not opposite and equal, right? So the one that I don't have enough of, it's more positive than there is negative, means I'm going to add another -1. So then I wrote another one. And now they do add up to 0. +2 plus -1 and -1 add up to 0. So now I count how many there are. There is 1 Ca. So if you're looking at the little 2 and you're like, wait, what's that 2 doing there? We're talking about the whole atom, or ion. There's 1 ion, and there are 2 NO3 ions. So we write Ca, NO3 with the parenthesis, just like you see it above, and the 2 on the outside tells you there's 2 of the whole team. All right, I know that's confusing, but just keep in mind that what's inside the parenthesis does not change. See how it's NO3 both places? But the fact that there's 2 teams goes on the outside. So I can still see the team is NO3, but there's 2 of them. The next example, lithium sulfide. Okay, sulfide is not one of my polyatomics. Sulfide means we're over here on the "ide" part of the periodic table. So I'm going to erase this, but You see, sulfide would be sulfur if it was an atom. But when it's an ion, it's sulfide. So that means it has a charge of -2. I kind of jumped over to that because that's the hard part. So I probably shouldn't have done that. Let's look at the first word, lithium. Lithium is going to be our positive one. So we're going to look on the left side of the table. Li is lithium. Li is a +1. Sulfide is a -2. So I start by writing those one time each. Then I ask myself, do they add up to 0? +1 and -2 do not add up to 0. I need more positive. So I write another Li, and now they do add up to 0, and now I count. The lithium's 1, 2, so I put Li2. And the S, there's only one, so just S, 1S. Let's look at this one. Sodium hydroxide. Now hydroxide is a good one to memorize because hydroxide is unique. It's a polyatomic that ends with "ide." So on our polyatomic chart you see hydroxide, and it's the only one that ends with "ide." Otherwise you might think since it has an "ide" it's one of these on this part, but hydroxide is not an element. It's the polyatomic ion, hydro for hydrogen and oxygen, oxide. So then I list and count. So sodium, I'm going to find it on the left side of the periodic table or the left of the step line. And so looking at Na is here. So it's a +1. And I'm going to write that like that. And then hydroxide is this one, OH -1. I'm going to write it just like I see it here. +1 -1, they do add up to 0. And so I'm going to write NaOH. And that's it. Okay, do your best, and the next thing that you'll be able to open will be a key for this, so you can check your work.